Hi, everybody. So I wanted to come on here and talk about some unfortunate things that happened to me yesterday when I was at my local DMV. So on Tuesday, I turned 26 on October 19th, and like most adults with a driver's license, every 8 years or so, you have to get your driver's license renewed. And so 2021 was my year. So yesterday I go to the DMV to get it renewed. Go in, get a ticket. My number gets called. I go up to the window. Mind you, I am in my blue mobility scooter with my canes in the back of it. I hand the woman my ticket and tell her that I'm here to get my driver's license renewed. And the very first question out of her mouth was, "How long have you been in the wheelchair?" And mind you, I can transfer in and out of my scooter, no problem. I use my scooter for distance purposes and whatnot, and I take it with me when I'm driving from A to B. So I just thought that she was asking, well, I interpreted her question as, "How long have you had that scooter?" So I said about 7 years. And she's looking at my license and looking at my file. And she's really not saying much. And then she tells me some things about a medical review. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I already had my medical review 8 years ago. When I got my license, the state approved everything. Now I have my driver's license. I'm just here to get it renewed. And pretty much the entire time, this woman didn't have much of an interest in anything I had to say. She's going back and forth with her supervisors. They're kind of whispering to each other, debating on what to do. I ask for information. I'm still standing there kind of with no clue as to what the hell is going on. Getting your license renewed is as simple as, verifying your information, passing a vision test, taking a new picture, and going on with your day. So I asked, what's going on, and this other woman behind the counter goes, "Sir, it says we need to call medical. We don't need to know why we need to call medical, but when we know why, we will tell you." Honestly, extremely nasty and authoritative when there was no reason for her to do that when she has my license in her hand. I felt that it was my right to know what was going on. At that point, I'm been standing there for a good 5 minutes now with no answers as to what's going on. So more time passes, still no real concrete information as to what the big fuss is. And in the meantime, I'm explaining to them that, CP, cerebral palsy, which is my condition, it hasn't gotten worse. It doesn't get worse. It doesn't progress. Again, everyone behind the counter at that point took little to no interest into what I had to say. Then they come back out and they say, "Okay, here's the deal. You are going to take another driving exam. And if you don't pass, we will suspend your license." And I said, "Well, why? On what basis are you making this decision?" And they said, "Well, we're basing it on your condition." And I said, "Well, what condition?" And another woman, the supervisor at this point, who was with the original woman that was, quote unquote, helping me when this all began, said, "Well, we need to make sure that you have the strength and mobility to operate a vehicle." And mind you, I've had my driver's license for 8 years. I drove there, and the only restrictions on my license are that I wear glasses, which I'd be a fool not to wear glasses when I drive, and an extra mirror in my car. And so at that point, I was pretty pissed off, to say the least. I felt extremely discriminated against. I mean, they're blatantly telling me that I need to retake a driving exam that pretty much anyone under the age of 80 in Florida, I believe, only has to take once until you reach around 80 years old or so, if I'm correct. So they are asking me to take this driving test based solely on my condition, how I look. Remember, they're not asking me about my condition. I'm telling them I have CP, but they don't really care. They're just saying, well, we need to make sure that you have the strength to operate a vehicle. So basically, to me, at that point, is what they're saying is you look weak, and we need to make sure that you can still drive a car. So I mean, I'm pretty pissed, and I'm just like, okay, like I'll take the test. I didn't have much of a choice, but at that point, I just was like, all right, you're all sitting here thinking I can't drive. I'll show you that I can drive. So in the meantime, the next thing is, well, all right, let's see if you can pass the vision test. So it's like the standard vision test, where it's like the binocular things you look into, you read the letters. So I'm blind in my left eye. So how the test works, I didn't know this, because it's a test you only do, once every 8 years or so. To renew your license, regardless, you have to pass a vision test. So, but when someone is blind in their left eye, you're given the exam with the left column blocked out. So the left column of all the rows is blank, and you read from the middle to the right. So I go, mind you, I have a mask on, glasses. Mind you, I have a mask on, glasses. So it's a little interesting, but we made it work. And I'm reading the letters, middle column and right column. And before I can get even barely 2 letters in, the original woman, the woman who asked me how long have I been in a wheelchair, is saying that I am incorrect. And I'm just stunned. I'm thinking there's no way I'm messing up these letters. I'm verifying with her which line she wants me to read. I'm keep reading because nope, that's way incorrect. You're way off. And I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. At this point, I'm trying to keep my cool. And remember, they want me to get into a car right after this if I pass the vision test, to go take a driving test. And granted, 8 years ago, when I was in high school, taking my driving test to get my license, I was nervous. Everyone's nervous taking their driving test for the first time. But to be put under this much psychological pressure, and just saying, you're in a wheelchair, you got to take a driving test, you're screwing up the vision test. What happened was, the woman and I going back and forth, she was looking at the wrong answers. She was looking at the standard vision test, so she kept looking for me to read the standard left column, but the exam for me, the left column was blank. So she kind of had to admit that she was wrong in that sense. I passed the vision test. The next thing they asked me was to go take a picture. So you can imagine I had a big smile on my face for my new license picture, which I did so fast. I practically jumped over my scooter from the counter to the the screen behind me to take the picture. Did that. I get in the car. 10, 15 minutes later, still pretty frustrated about the whole thing because, remember, there's no real reason. There's no real reason why I have to take another driving test. It's just based purely on someone saying, hi, hey, this kid's in a wheelchair. Get in the car with the instructor. Very, very kind woman. And I passed the test with flying colors. Let's see, to recap, we did our backing out of a parking spot, stop signs, straight on parking, 3-point turn, and backing straight up, speed limits, the whole 9 yards, as if I hadn't been driving for 8 years. And I finished the test, I go back in, and I renew my license. And the woman, the supervisor, after the fact, she apologized to me for the fiasco, saying that I never should have had to take the test. But look, the bottom line is that I was really blatantly discriminated against. You can say that just on the way I looked, the way I came in there with a mobility device and canes, not on anything else, not on. No one wanted to listen to what I had to say. It was just, hey, you look a little weak, maybe. We got to put you back behind the wheel because we feel like it. And hey, if you don't pass, which I wasn't worried that I wasn't going to pass, but just the psyche to put that in someone's head, spur of the moment. Hey, if you don't pass, we're going to suspend your license. And granted, I am someone who, as of recording this, I've never even gotten a speeding ticket. So I consider myself a very safe driver. And so I feel definitely discriminated against. And bottom line is I'm putting this out there because I feel like the system in Florida and probably in other states as well. I've done some reading since this has happened. Is not favored towards, may not necessarily be favored towards fairness for people with physical disabilities to get a license, get a driver's license, and or get their license renewed. When I got my driver's license 8 years ago, I had to jump through a lot of hoops, pass a field vision test, and I took I think I mentioned this earlier, but I took my initial driver's exam 8 years ago, got a perfect score, blew everybody away, and now, yesterday, I was asked to take it a second time, which is pretty much unprecedented based on just the fact that I am disabled, and the people at the DMV felt like they could just do it for the heck of it and put an enormous amount of stress and discrimination and really kind of like it's almost like psychological warfare at that point on an individual just because. And so I'm putting this out there as a PSA to Florida Department of Motor Vehicles, Governor's Office, people in the state of Florida that have a physical disability, that it's extremely wrong to be treated this way. And I'm putting this out there because I don't want to see anyone else go through what I had to go through yesterday just to get their driver's license renewed. The ironic thing is that I was called to the counter. Everyone talks about, you're waiting at the DMV forever. I was called to the counter within 15 minutes of me getting there. And renewing my license should not have taken the nearly almost hour and a half, 2 hours that I was there dealing with the BS and honestly mental torture that I had to go through. And just still reflecting on it over 24 hours later, I'm exhausted. mentally exhausted. I'm still trying to comprehend, like, oh my God, that even happened. And really, shame on people's ignorance. We're so quick to judge other people based on the way they look, and that was really one of the worst times in my life that I have been summed up on the way I look. People may assume that I can't communicate for myself, or that I may not be as physically independent, let's say from a walking standpoint, as I am. But to just sit there and assume that I don't have the strength to drive a car is absurd. So, thank you guys for listening to this. And one more quick thing I want to add, kind of put the icing on the cake. So when I did get in the car yesterday, kind of out of, I'm going to give this one instance the benefit out of an innocent oversight, but the woman giving me the test compared my situation to an elderly gentleman that came in earlier in the day that broke his hip. And so they had to retest him. I guess he came in to renew his license as well. But, as I told everyone at this DMV earlier, CP isn't progressive. It hasn't gotten any worse. It's not a disease. And the overarching point here is that as a 26-year-old man, no one wanted to listen to what I had to say. To sit there, and as I tried to sit there and stand up for myself and right this situation, no one really wanted to hear me out. No one cared to hear what I had to say regarding my own self. And that's the real shameful part here. As I'm big on self-advocacy, as I feel like I should be, and other people with disabilities should be, and parents of young kids. If you're watching this, like what that battle is like. But it gets to the point, obviously, when you're 26, that you're not going to have your parents there with you to fight your battles. And what was really disappointing was that no one wanted to listen to what I had to say when it came to, hey, I'm just trying to explain that CP, it doesn't get worse. I'm just here to renew my license. They wouldn't even make eye contact with me. They wouldn't make eye contact with me when I was explaining this. And that's the real shameful part of this. So I want to, end this by saying the system, as far as at least Florida Department of Motor Vehicles, and probably a lot more overall, needs to change. And, especially in a government office like that, if you're not going to hire people, mind you, the woman that was, quote unquote, helping me, that took my ticket at the DMV, she's worked there for over 40 years. So it's quite shameful that she displayed that much level of, I'm going to call it maybe ignorance. I don't know if I should call it ignorance. Maybe I startled her or something. I don't know. But the whole situation was handled so improperly, to sit there and peg me as weak because of the way I looked. And to be stereotyped like that, which is such an old and disgusting stereotype to look at an individual in a wheelchair, scooter, canes, walker, whatever it is, and quantify them as weak right off the bat without getting to know the person. So, bottom line is, yes, I did get my license renewed. I think I already said that. But I wanted to make this off the cuff, from the heart. I appreciate everybody who's reached out and asked me, what's going on or what happened, because I posted something about alluding to this last night on my story. So this is it. And things need to change. This probably isn't over. I'm trying, but things are going to change, because no person with a disability who does not have to go, by law, does not have to take another driving exam. No one should be scrutinized to another driving exam if their condition does not change or worsen. So thank you for listening to this. Let's keep striving to change things, because yesterday was a big eye-opener.